Welcome to Liverpool fans. Today we've got the latest updates of your beloved club Liverpool. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of breaking news. Let's get started. Liverpool Football Club have entered a period of renewed turmoil after confirming the dismissal of head coach Arne in the immediate aftermath of a damaging 3-2 defeat to Bournemouth, a result that proved decisive for Fenway Sports Group. The decision, taken moments after the final whistle, brought an abrupt end to Slot's short and turbulent tenure at Anfield and underlined the ruthlessness of a club unwilling to tolerate further drift at a critical stage of the season. The defeat on the South Coast was not viewed internally as a routine setback, but as a moment that crystallised deeper concerns. Liverpool arrived at the Vitality Stadium under heavy pressure, with expectations still high but belief increasingly fragile. Despite taking an early lead, the performance quickly unravelled. Bournemouth played with hunger, intensity and clarity, repeatedly exploiting Liverpool's lack of defensive cohesion and uncertainty in midfield. Poor pressing structure, slow reactions in transition and recurring positional errors allowed the hosts back into the contest, and by the time Bournemouth struck a third goal, the sense of inevitability was unmistakable. Although Liverpool rallied late and reduced the deficit, the comeback attempt only highlighted a pattern that had become familiar under Slot: a team reacting to problems rather than controlling matches from the outset. When the final whistle confirmed the 3-2 defeat, it was clear to many inside and outside the club that the consequences would extend far beyond the loss of 3 points. The embarrassment of being outworked and outmaneuvered by a side playing with freedom and confidence echoed loudly across Merseyside. According to sources close to the club, FSG had already convened an emergency meeting before the match had even concluded. The owners had been closely monitoring performances over recent weeks, and the Bournemouth defeat merely confirmed their belief that the underlying issues were no longer fixable under the current leadership. Within hours, Slot was informed of his dismissal. There was no attempt to delay the decision or manage the narrative through extended briefings. The message from ownership was blunt and decisive. Liverpool could not afford further regression. A brief club statement followed, confirming that Slot had been relieved of his duties with immediate effect and thanking him for his professionalism during his time at Anfield. Behind the scenes, however, the verdict was clear. While Slot arrived with a reputation as a progressive, attack-minded coach, admired for his work in the Netherlands, the transition to the Premier League proved far more challenging than anticipated. Tactical adaptability emerged as a persistent concern. Liverpool's high defensive line was often exposed, midfield control fluctuated wildly from game to game, and adjustments to injuries and form rarely produced sustained improvement. Inconsistency became the defining feature of Slot's reign. Promising performances were too often followed by inexplicable collapses, leaving Liverpool unable to build momentum across competitions. Defensive vulnerabilities recurred with alarming regularity, particularly late in matches and during transitions, while the attacking play, though occasionally vibrant, lacked reliability. Internally, there was growing concern that the squad no longer had a clear, repeatable identity. Perhaps most damaging was the belief that Slot had begun to lose the dressing room. Body language on the pitch increasingly suggested confusion and frustration, with senior players appearing disconnected from tactical instructions and younger players struggling without clear guidance. Supporters, who had initially shown patience in recognition of a managerial transition, reached breaking point after the Bournemouth defeat. Calls for change flooded social media within minutes, and the demand for decisive action became impossible to ignore. With Slot dismissed, Liverpool moved swiftly to the next phase of their plan. Fenway Sports Group identified Xabi Alonso as their priority target and acted with remarkable speed. Following his recent exit from Real Madrid after a run of inconsistent results and mounting internal pressure, Alonso was immediately approached. Negotiations progressed rapidly, and a full agreement has now been reached, with an official announcement expected within days. For Liverpool supporters, the impending appointment carries deep symbolic weight. Alonso is not merely a managerial choice, but a figure woven into the club's modern history. A former midfielder renowned for intelligence, composure and leadership, he is seen by the ownership as someone who instinctively understands Liverpool's identity. FSG believe that connection gives him a unique platform to restore direction and belief. Alonso is expected to implement a high-intensity, possession-based system built on tactical discipline, midfield control and defensive balance. Liverpool defender Ibrahima Konate has spoken with quiet dignity and deep gratitude after receiving an outpouring of support following the tragic passing of his father, Hamadi. The France international confirmed the heartbreaking news on Thursday, a day after he was absent from Liverpool's Champions League clash away to Marseille, a match he missed due to pressing family matters. Konate's absence was felt not only on the pitch, but also emotionally within the Liverpool camp. The centre-back has been a key figure in Arne Slot's side this season, offering physical authority, composure and leadership at the back. However, football understandably took a back seat as he travelled to be with his family during an immensely difficult time. Liverpool went on to secure a convincing 3-0 victory in Marseille, a result that placed them firmly on course for qualification to the Champions League round of 16. But the focus for many players and supporters remained firmly with Konate and his personal loss. In his place, Joe Gomez stepped into the heart of defence and delivered a solid performance, partnering Virgil van Dijk with assurance. Gomez is expected to continue in that role for Saturday's Premier League fixture against Bournemouth, as Konate is given the time and space he needs to grieve. From the first whistle in Marseille to the final celebrations, Konate's teammates made it clear that the result was also for him, a gesture that underlined the strong sense of unity within the squad. Arne Slot addressed Konate's absence before the Champions League tie, speaking with visible empathy and restraint. The Liverpool head coach described the situation as one filled with sadness, making it clear that the club's priority was supporting the player rather than rushing him back into action. Slot's words reflected a broader culture at Liverpool, one that recognises the human side of footballers beyond their roles on the pitch. The day after the Marseille match, Konate confirmed the death of his father, prompting an overwhelming response from fans, teammates, former players, and members of the wider football community. Messages of condolence flooded social media, with supporters from across clubs and countries offering prayers and words of comfort. The reaction highlighted the respect Konate commands not just as a footballer, but as a person. On Friday, Konate broke his silence with a heartfelt message of thanks. Writing with honesty and emotion, he acknowledged the scale of the support he had received and explained that while he had not been able to respond individually, every message had meant a great deal to him. He expressed gratitude for the calls, thoughts, and presence of those who stood by him, particularly those who attended the mosque to offer prayers and solidarity during a deeply painful moment. Konate's message struck a chord with many, not only because of its sincerity, but also because of the vulnerability it revealed. In a profession often defined by strength, resilience, and constant scrutiny, his words were a reminder that grief is universal, and that even elite athletes are not immune to profound